Hey, what's going on YouTube, and welcome to another Season 7 League of Legends Champion Guide. In this one, we're going to cover Urgot, the Headman's Pride, aka Urgot.
Eternal life, endless torture.
Urgot's a champion with a lot of pros, but unfortunately he also comes with a lot of cons. He does however have really strong poke and also a shield that even slows the enemy. His ultimate does have the chance to be game breaking, and he's a very great laner and lane bully. This is mostly due to that strong poke, and the fact that he can kite and zone you rather easily. He's then finally able to check the brush with his E and Q ability, and he even gets built-in armor penetration from that E ability as well. Urgot, however, is a champion with absolutely no sustain and very low mobility. He is a champion that's really strong in the mid game, but he definitely falls off pretty hard in the later game. He does also have early mana issues early on, but you will be getting a tier to help with this. You do also have a pretty slow auto attack animation, but fortunately for you, you will be using your Q to mainly last hit anyways. Urgot finally is pretty damn hard to master because you must be landing your E ability over and over again, and your ultimate you don't always want to use. For your mastery page, you do have two main options, but the better one in my opinion is going 18 Cunning and 12 Ferocity, grabbing Thunderlord's Decree as your keystone mastery. It's a very easy mastery to proc as long as you can consistently land your E ability, and it can add a ton of damage. Going 18 Ferocity and 12 Cunning is also a very viable option if you do want to get Deathfire Touch instead and add a little bit more onto your poke. For your runes, you also have multiple options, but my favorite is Attack Damage Reds, Armor Yellows, Magic Resist Blues, and Attack Damage Quints. This will make your Q do a ton of damage on the enemy champion as long as you can land your E, and you will have some nice tankiness as well from that Armor and Magic Resist. I do occasionally also see a full lethality rune page, and it is also viable because your E gives armor penetration, and you can actually get through a lot of armor if you do take those runes. Of course, just like all AD carries, attack speed quints are also very viable, but I do like attack damage instead, just so my Q hits a bit harder. For your summoner spells, you'll first want to pick up Flash. It's required on Urgot because he does lack mobility, and it can save you multiple times in a single game. For your second summoner though, you do have a couple different options. If I'm playing top lane Urgot, then usually I'll go for Teleport. It will allow you to split push for a lot of the game and still make it to those team fights and objectives. Of course, teleport ganks are also really solid if you teleport to a minion or a ward and gank an enemy. Ghost is also a really great option, and usually the one I'll take when I'm in mid lane. This will give you some nice extra mobility, and it will allow you to stick onto enemies much easier so you can chase, or of course you can use it as a second escape. Exhaust and Ignite are great if you're against a high damage champion or you're just looking for some added kill pressure in your lane. Urgot's passive is Zontouched Bolt Augmenter, and it's great for reducing damage. So there's not too much to say about this passive, but it is really solid because your basic attacks and your Acid Hunter, which is your Q ability, will reduce the damage dealt by your target by 15% for 2.5 seconds. It's definitely not the best passive in the world, but it still is really solid because when you are 1v1 in the top or mid lane, it will reduce their damage, and it does make you just a little bit tankier. Urgot's Q is Acid Hunter, and this one is your bread and butter ability. When activated, you'll fire a missile in a line, dealing physical damage to the first enemy it hits and refunding 20 mana if it does kill your target. This ability also only has a 2-second cooldown, making it great for its spammable poke. If you do land your Noxian Corrosive Charge, which is your E ability, on the target, this will automatically go to that enemy. That means even if they are behind minions, you can still land this ability. Since this does refund mana, it's also great for stacking up your Tear of the Goddess when you do finally purchase it. Simply bring down the minions low with your auto attacks, and then use your Acid Hunter to clean up and refund mana, and also stack your Tear. Urgot's W is Terror Capacitor, and this allows you to shield yourself and also slow the enemy. When activated, you'll shield yourself for up to 5 seconds, and also cause your basic attacks and Acid Hunter to slow your target for 1.5 seconds while the shield holds. This shield also does scale off of your percentage maximum mana, which is why a Mira Mana and things like a Frozen Heart or an Iceborne Gauntlet work so well on Urgot. Not only do they make your mana issues go away, but they also give you a bigger shield. Urgot's E ability is Corrosive Charge, and it allows your Acid Hunter to go directly to a target. When activated, you'll launch a Corrosive Charge to the target location, dealing physical damage to all enemies hit over 5 seconds, and reducing their armor for that duration. So this ability is great because it is built-in armor penetration, and your Q will automatically go to the target, as long as, of course, this lands on that enemy. It is very important to land though, so your Q doesn't get blocked by minions. Your ultimate is Hyperkinetic Position Reverser, and it's great for picking off enemies, and also making yourself a little bit tankier. When activated, you'll grant yourself damage reduction for 5 seconds and channel for 1 second, suppressing the target enemy champion for that duration. When completed, Urgot and his target will swap spots, and Urgot will ignore unit collision for 1 second and slow the target by 40% for 3 seconds, and causing nearby enemies to flee for 1.5 seconds, excluding his target. If you went for a carry Urgot build, then this is one you're not going to want to initiate with, but instead save until a carry gets on top of you so you can suppress them and get some damage reduction. If you did, however, go for a tankier Urgot, then this is great for initiating since you will flee targets when you do land as well. It will get one of the enemy carries really out of position, and your carries can easily follow up and kill that target. For your skill order, you'll want to put a point into your ultimate whenever you can at 6, 11, and 16. You'll then want to max your Q ability first for its spammable poke and great last hitting ability. Follow that up with your E ability because it does have scaling armor reduction, which is of course great on an AD champion like Urgot. Then, finally, we'll want to save our W ability for last. We just get one early point at level 3 so we can shield ourselves and slow the enemy champion. For your combos, we first have a very simple one, and it's your harassment combo. To do this, all you have to simply do is land your E ability on the enemy champion and hit them with your Q 3 times. In between those Q abilities, you can mix in some auto attacks or just start kiting, whatever you do need for the situation. For the next combo, you're going to want to use it against very mobile champions so you can apply a slow before you try to land your E. Start by activating the shield from your W and hit them with a single auto attack. At this point, they will be slowed, so land your E ability on the enemy champion and follow up with those 3 Q abilities. For the last combo here, we incorporate the ultimate, so we start by ultimating the target, activate our W shield, hit the enemy with our E ability, and proceed to land our Qs. The first important part about your lane phase is of course last hitting. This, however, is really easy to do on Urgot because of your Acid Hunter. You'll need to be using this ability as much as you can to last hit minions so you can stack your tier of Goddess and get some mana in return. Zoning and harassing is the other important part of your lane phase. You are a really strong lane bully, and most champions out there won't be able to deal with all of your damage. Make sure you land your Noxian Corrosive Charge on the enemy whenever you can and hit them with 3 Acid Hunters. You can also stand near the minions, so if the enemy moves to last hit, it will be a lot easier to land your E ability and you can proceed to harass with your Q afterwards. If you find an enemy out of position before a team fight breaks out, then use your Hyperkinetic Position Reverser to land your team an easy kill so you have an advantage in the upcoming team fight. If you went for a tanky Urgot build, then you may need to be the initiator if you don't already have one. You'll want to pull a high damage carry into your team so your teammates can delete them. This will get even stronger if you manage to get into the enemy team and flee multiple targets as well when you do swap positions. If you've gone for a carry build, then your ultimate should not be used for initiating. Play like an AD carry and hold on to it until later, like if the enemy carry gets on top of you, for example. Now we're going to cover a couple hard mid lane and top lane matchups, and first up is Ahri. Ahri is a champion that can easily all-in you, especially if you miss your E ability. When she is level 6, I'd recommend holding onto your E ability a bit more, because if she does try to all-in you, you do need it to actually fight her. Play more defensively, and poke her when you can. Next here is LeBlanc, who is another hard mid lane matchup because of her high damage and mobility, just like Ahri. Yet again, here you're going to have to play a lot more defensively, and she is able to dodge your E rather easily because of all the mobility from her W. If you end up missing it, usually she's going to W onto you, stun you with her E, and kill you with her Q. Make sure you build a Maw or some sort of other magic resist. Now we're going to look at some top lane matchups, starting with Aurelia. She's going to be really hard for you because she can easily get on top of you with your Q, deal a ton of damage with her W, and stun or slow you with her E ability. When she finally gets her Trinity Force, this gets a hell of a lot harder for you as well. You want to play more defensively here, try to get ganks, and make sure you use your ultimate whenever the jungler does show up. One last hard matchup we'd have in the top lane would be Camille. She's got a very strong gap closer and some very high damage, and even the ability to lock you in place with her ultimate. Urgot's strength lies in the ability to kite his enemies, and against Camille, that's not really going to happen too often. Play much more defensively than usual, and try to harass her as much as you can, but do not overcommit. Now let's finish this guide off with our item build. For your first start, you could go for a longsword and a refillable potion and a warding totem, but of course, you could also get health potions instead of that refillable as well. A second very viable start would be going for the corrupting potion and a warding totem. And if you did want one third other one, you could of course go for a Doran's Blade, health potion, and a warding totem as well. For our core build, we have the Manamune and the Black Cleaver. Urgot is a very mana-hungry champion, and his W shield does scale off of mana, so Mira Mana will be an amazing item. Of course, that's the evolved form of the Manamune. The black lever is going to be really solid as well. It will do some nice armor shredding and work great with your E, and also give you 20% CDR, which is fantastic on Urgot. For your third item options, you have the Iceborne Gauntlet, Frozen Heart, and a Death Dance. I usually go for the Iceborne Gauntlet here because it does work really nicely on Urgot, but if you do want full-on defensives, then you would want to go for that Frozen Heart instead. Alternatively, if you were trying to hard carry the game, then you would want to go for that Death Dance. For your boot options, you have the Merc Treads against high AP and CC, Ninja Tabbies against high AD teams, Boots of Swiftness for all-around mobility, and Ionian Boots if you do need 10% CDR. So for our item pool, we first have the two shielding items in the Maw and the Sterak's Gauge. The Maw will be a fantastic pickup if there is some AP assassins on the enemy team, and the Sterak's Gauge will be great against AD assassins or just really high damage carries. Next would be the Youmuu's. It is pretty solid on Urgot because he is very immobile, but it's not the best item on AD carries, as I'm sure you all know. It no longer provides the attack speed. In the later game, if you need even more armor penetration, you could get the LDR or the Mortal Reminder. Usually I'll go for the LDR, but if you do need that Grievous Wounds, then make sure you pick up the Mortal Reminder instead. For some magic resist options, you could get the Banshee's Veil or the Spirit Visage. If I need the cooldown reduction, then I will go for the Spirit Visage, but otherwise, I'll go for that Banshee's Veil. The shield can stop some really important spells, and it also has mana which scales with your W. If you'd instead like some armor, they could go for a Dead Man's Plate or a Randuin's. Dead Man's Plate is great if you want to add some ability, and Randuin's is great against high crit champions like Yasuo. If you'd like a combination of magic resistant armor, then you could get the Guardian Angel, or, of course, the ZZ Rot Portal. The Guardian Angel, of course, fantastic in the late game so you can come back to life, and the ZZ Rot Portal can add some really annoying split push. Edge of Night is finally a great item on Urgot as well because you can get that spell shield before you go in for your ultimate, and you can automatically block a spell. For our normal full build though, we take our core, get the Merc Boots, Iceborne Gauntlet, Maw, and a Guardian Angel. It's a pretty damn solid build, it will deal a pretty solid amount of damage, and it is very tanky at the same time. But that, ladies and gentlemen, covers everything I've got for top and mid lane Urgot in Season 7. Don't forget to check out the video description below for a link to all my social medias if you would like to find more of my content, and please feel free to join the Discord as well if you want to talk anything League of Legends. I also have a Riot Point giveaway going on Twitter right now, so that's one you might want to check out as well. But other than that, thank you guys a ton for watching, I hope you guys did enjoy the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.